brief introductions, and then I'm going to hand it off to Peter Robinson and Justin Gannay, who are really going to be leading this work stream. The goal of the meeting today is really to figure out how do we sort of divide and conquer. This is one of the biggest work streams, and so I think there's some opportunities to leverage a lot of wonderful ongoing work, as well as to enlist others in the effort. As things progress, we also are going to want to see an increasing coordination of different types of users and stakeholders and contributors. And so we want to kind of plan ahead for that as well. So just very briefly, I'm going to share my screen really quickly, or you can just go to the one slide that shows the data governance overview.
So Melissa, do we want to do introductions of who's on the call?
Yes, we do. I was just thinking I'd quickly give the overview and then do the introductions so we can, either way is fine though. Okay, sorry about that, guys. We'll just be real quick. So I just wanted to, for those who may not be as familiar, and some of you have seen this slide, just the idea that the data is really going to be coming from many different clinical institutions. There's a data use agreement and a common IRB. The data will go into a staging location, and then it will be pushed into this central collaborative analytical framework in this central data pool, which will be accessed by qualified researchers that have been approved through a data access committee. So this environment will support quality access controls and as well as a variety of sort of other tracking mechanisms. Also from that data set, there'll be a synthetic data set generated that will be openly available to the public with the simple registration for ensuring use for public good. And I just wanted to kind of give this framework before we go into our introduction so that folks can kind of talk a little bit about, maybe just say who you are, where you're from, and maybe some aspect of how, what your expertise is that might fit into some of the architectural framework that we have here. Now, I know that there's basically the focus of this group is kind of this part of the diagram, and there's a lot to unpack under there that I'll let Peter and Justin talk about. In terms of what kind of collaborative analytical portal and framework we need to be able to do. Okay, so back to the agenda, and we'll do some introductions. So I'm Melissa. I'm from Oregon Health and Science University, and I'm an ontologist by training. So most of my work will actually be on other work streams, and I lead the Center for Data to Health. And next I see Anita.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anita Walden. I'm Assistant Director for Center for Data Health, and I work closely with Melissa.
Johanna?
Hi, I'm Johanna Lumba from the University of Virginia, and I work in iThrive as the manager of the informatics core. We've worked on other registries and networked our data with other institutions.
Great. Peter?
Hi, I'm Peter Robinson. I'm from the Jackson Laboratory, or JAX, and I was a clinician. I am now a bioinformatician.
Tom?
Hey, how's it going? I work at Sage Networks. I'm a bioinformatics engineer here, and I a lot of design of the challenge infrastructure and also one of the data portals that we have here.
Wonderful. Andrea, I'm just going down the list here, sorry. Andrea?
Yes, hi, I'm Andrea Vols. I'm the Communications and Engagement Manager for CD2H, and I'm here to hear what the group is working on and help you with any messaging.
Great. Sean?
Hi, I'm Sean O'Neill. I'm a brand new person in Melissa's group at Oregon State University. My background is in computer science and a little bit of cloud architecture, bioinformatics.
Great, welcome aboard. This is Sean's first official duty. Right. Okay, James.
Hey, this is, sorry, James Eddy from Sage Bionetworks. My background is in bioinformatics and computational biology, and a lot of the work that I do is supporting infrastructure development for data coordination and collaborative open science projects.
Great. Moni.
Hi, I'm Moni Munoz Torres, and I work in TIS Lab with Melissa at OSU. I wear a lot of hats as it pertains to my role here. I'm going to be providing support and assistance with operations. And I am a program manager for software development in scientific environments. My background is on molecular biology and computational genomics.
Wonderful. We're very grateful for Moni's help. Justin.
Yeah, I'm Justin Ganay. I'm with Sage Bionetworks, where I lead the computational oncology team. My background is as a computational biologist, and I lead this CD2H tools and cloud architecture group.
My internet is very, very poor. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, we can.
I might have Anita take over on the introduction list because I have a feeling it's going to do that again.
You might shut off your video, Melissa.
Can you guys still hear me now? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. I hear the other Tom. Is there? Let's see. I'm trying to track here. Andrew.
Hi, this is Andrew Gervin. I work at Palantir across our practice in health and biomedical R&D.
Great. Nabil?
Hi there, my name is Nabil Qureshi, and I'm the Palantir project lead at NIH, where we work primarily with NCATS and with NCI.
Great. Janos? Hi, Janos.
Hi, this is Janos Hagrish from Stony Brook University. I am a faculty member in Department of Biomedical Informatics and also data analytics for Stony Brook Medicine. I do a lot of hands-on data analysis and data processing.
Okay, we have, let's see, Joel.
Hi, yeah, this is, I'm Joel Saltz. I'm Chair of Biomedical Informatics at Stony Brook. Background is MD, PhD in computer science and pathology, and I do lots of things, but have been working on healthcare, electronic health record data analytics for most of my professional life, along with digital pathology.
Wonderful. We're grateful for your help. Heidi.
Hey, I'm Heidi Spratt. I'm at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. I am a biostatistician with expertise in machine learning and bioinformatics, and I am working with Peter as the community lead for the CD2H machine learning sandbox.
Wonderful. And we'll hear a little bit more about how those things relate here shortly, I expect. Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason Moore. I'm director of the Institute for Biomedical Informatics at the University of Pennsylvania. I do methods work in machine learning and artificial intelligence, and for the last 5 years have been working in the hot new area of automated machine learning.
Wonderful.
We might have lost Melissa.
Marilyn?
Hi, everyone. This is Marilyn Ritchie. I am a professor of genetics at the University of Pennsylvania, also associate director for bioinformatics in the IBI that Jason just described. My background is in computational genomics, a lot of methodology and analysis around electronic health records, genetic and genomic data, and doing kind of unbiased phenomic experiments with the electronic health record.
Wonderful. George.
Hi, George Ripsack here, biomedical informatics at Columbia University. Also work in the Odyssey initiative, so that's relevant for the tool sets for analysis on the clinical side.
Fantastic. Vivian.
Hi, I'm Vivian Gaynor. I work with a group of bioinformaticians and data scientists at Partners Healthcare in Harvard. And I also work in ACT, and I think I'm here wearing the ACT hat today.
Fantastic. Let's see. Matthew Owens.
Hi, good afternoon. Also with the Palantir team, supporting NCATS and NCI. Good to meet all of you.
Great. Ken Gersing.
Ken Gersing, I'm Director of Informatics at NCATS.
Richard Moffett.
I'm Richard Moffett, assistant professor at Stony Brook with Joel and Janos in the Department of Biomedical Informatics. My previous training is mostly in transcriptomics, but more recently I've been working on predicting phenotypes from EHR data.
Fantastic. And Kartik.
Hi, my name is Karthik Nadarajan. I'm faculty at Informatics Department at Columbia. George is our chair. Work a lot on Odyssey and the tools there, and as well as kind of a look at the analytics infrastructures for both Odyssey and the All of Us research program.
Fantastic. There's some other initials that I'm seeing that I don't know the names of. So if I think I've missed a few people, if you could just let us know who's all here.
Chris Shute. I'm Chief Research Information Officer at Johns Hopkins and also co-PI of CD2H.
Thomas Schafter. I'm working at Sage Bionetwork as a data engineer. I develop cloud infrastructure, and I also organize Dream challenges using EHR data.
Hi, I'm Yudi Che. I'm also at Sage Bionetworks, and my background has been in building out data and collaboration portals.
Great.
Hi, this is Usman Sheikh. I'm part of the NCATS team. I'm supporting Dr. Gersing, and my background is in clinical data informatics.
Great.
Hi, everyone. This is Steve Kundrat. I'm from Trinetics. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here. And background is been working on building a federated data and analytics platform for the last 6 years, and hope to help folks funnel their data towards this key initiative.
Hi, this is Raphael. I support Dr. Gersing on a variety of initiatives. My background is primarily computer science with a focus on data science, advanced analytics, and emerging technologies.
Hi, I'm Miriam DC. I work at NCATS with Ken and the rest of the NCATS team.
I'm Mike Bisich. I'm at the University of Pittsburgh, Associate Director of our CTSA program and the Informatics Enterprise Committee Chair for the lead team and the members.
Great. Did I manage to miss anybody else? I think people keep popping on. I've now lost track.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Fong. I'm at University of Washington, and I work with UW Medicine Research and Analytics.
Great, welcome.
And I'm Milen Nikov. I'm at Sage Bionetworks, working with James and Justin on metadata and schemas.
Okay, did we get everybody? Anybody else? Okay, so hopefully you received this document in your email. There are links at the top to information about the listserv, the Slack channel, and things like that. I, with Anita, put these agendas for the meetings today together late last night. So our fearless leaders of Peter and Justin probably didn't have a whole lot of time to really think about that, but they're here to guide us through planning out what the Workstream will do and how we can engage the community in supporting key community needs, as well as developing the core architecture that will be needed to address those needs. So I'm going to hand it off to Peter and Justin.
Great, thanks, Melissa.
Hi.
And
go ahead.
I was going to say, for the benefit of those who may not have had a good orientation in terms of the other work streams, do you have the diagram that shows the other groups as well, or should I just move to the spreadsheet? Because I think that might help orient this team in terms of where they fit into the overall architecture of the N3C initiative.
You know, I think actually the spreadsheet, especially for this group, might be more helpful.
Okay, let's turn to that then. I'm going to share my screen. And this is, yeah, as Melissa pointed out, you know, Peter and I have not had the chance to put together a nice set of polished slides with marching order and directives and a clear architecture that's being kind of generated on the fly and in real time here, and hopefully this group will be able to help refine much of the thinking that needs to happen here. But it's important to see that there are other work streams that are happening in parallel to this effort. So there's the data partnership and governance group, who will be overseeing a number of activities related to getting the DUAs in place, IRBs, engaging hubs, and ensuring that we have the right mechanism to engage those sites that will be contributing data, and have the right governance structure that would allow that. Another group is the phenotype and data acquisition group. That's the real the group that will be overseeing the actual mechanism for data extraction at sites and the ability to identify cohorts of interest and being able to then be able to transmit them to this central N3C repository. The data ingestion harmonization group, we have Chris Schut on the call here, who's overseeing that initiative, and they will be the most immediate upstream group to the collaborative analytics group, which is the group that's assembled here, and so we'll be obviously highly dependent on the output of that team in terms of what we will be operating on and enabling in terms of analytics. So that takes us here now to the collaborative analytics group, and we've begun to formulate what we consider some essential task teams. This is obviously a big group that's assembled here, and so which is fabulous. I see that there's a lot of interest in being able to help support this overall goal of analytics in the N3C N3C initiative. Obviously, I think there's a lot of ways of decomposing our own set of goals, and this is kind of an initial pass at what we believe are different work streams that we'll need to coordinate. So that's the overall framework. Any questions before we kind of take a brief review of these initial task teams? And Peter, feel free to jump in at any point if you want to.
I will. No, you're doing great. Thanks.
Excellent. And let me admit that there's a lot of known unknowns that I think this group can help enumerate, and that's kind of what we're doing through this list of tasks. There are a few known knowns, but not many. And I think the two things that we can know as operating principles is that we will be using OMOP as the central data model for analytics. And Chris, feel free to reprimand me if I'm overstating, but my understanding is that OMOP will be the data model that we'll be harmonizing to.
OMOP 5.3, yeah.
5.3?
Yeah.
Great. And that we'll be using the Palantir platform to enable cloud provisioning and analytics. So those are, now I don't know if that means we're exclusively working with Palantir, but they will be providing resources and the use of their platform, and they are FedRAMP certified. So I think we're, by utilizing their platform, we'll sort of be expedite a lot of the downstream activity that this group can help coordinate. And of course, Ken, you're going to follow this this discussion, so you'll help orient us in terms of some of the architecture that NCATS and Palantir have already started to assemble. So I see a lot of chats that I'm not able to read in real time. If anyone has any comments they need to make, feel free to just.
It's just me trying to help get people to documents because
excellent.
I can't do anything in the chat and Zoom anymore, so I apologize. I do want to make one quick comment. Yeah, I do want to make one quick comment though, just so that you all know, in no way, shape, or form does the currently planned sketch of the architecture diminish anybody's other efforts, or it's just the core team at NCATS and within CD2H came up with the fastest way to get the maximal utility out of this. And additional features and support for different models and different tools will be added over time. But I just want to highlight that, because it doesn't mean that we don't want to support analytics in different clinical data models or using different kinds of tools, but just so that you know that. And there's also sort of FedRAMP requirements that also have to be met. So that's partly why the Palantir team is involved in this. So sorry for interrupting.
No, perfect. Yeah, that's helpful to, speed is of the essence, and we want to utilize what can expedite all these activities. I think as a general operating model for this is we want to get out of the way of those who want to do research. So we're looking to develop an architecture that will provide kind of robust systems to support the tools and analytics that people are looking for, but not so overly prescribed that it would constrain the types of research that people would want to do. So it's finding that right middle ground. And so that's the kind of operating philosophy that I see what we're trying to enable. As far as the different work streams, those are, or I should say task teams. Let me just briefly cover them, and then we can move on to Ken, because I know we have a lot of other topics to discuss. But there's clearly a community portal, a way in which we can engage the research community to be able to access this analytical environment, to be able to conduct the research. So there'll be some work to enable the on-ramp for the research community to be able to first request access and have a DAC review request for the type of research people want to do, and then to enable the understanding of what the system and platform will provide and the kind of analytics that it'll support. So that's one component that I consider that an external facing component. There's of course a lot of technical complexities to this that need to be managed, including the management of the database, compute resources, analytical tools. Again, we're in working with NCATS and Palantir, we'll be able to understand more what can be provided in short order and off the shelf. And I believe there's going to be a Palantir demo scheduled for next week. So we'll all be able to learn more about kind of what the tools are, what is available, and what Palantir and NCATS can help provide. And then I think there's what may be of interest to many people here is how do we enable different kinds of modeling and analytics. Again, we don't want to overthink this and be overly prescriptive in terms of the kinds of research that people want to do. So it's more about enabling tools as opposed to having a very specific and overly constrained set of tools that people might not find suitable for the tasks at hand. So I think that'll be an area for a lot of robust discussion and thinking about what the right trade-offs are there. There's and other many technical components in terms of security, auditing, user access, et cetera, that we'll want to coordinate with NCATS and Palantir. I do want to mention there's another effort around generating a synthetic derivative data set that's being led by Philip Payne. The idea is there to be able to successfully generate synthetic data that can be distributed more widely and not necessarily need to exist in this data enclave. And I should probably define that term. So data enclave means that this limited data set that's existing in this platform is not, the data is not to be moved out of the platform. So there's no data egress. All the analytics need to occur within this protected cloud environment. So so by generating synthetic data, the idea is that the bar would be lowered in terms of who can access and the ability to move it out of the system. So that's an effort being led by Philip. So that's the very kind of high level organization as it exists today. It could change as we think more deeply about this, but that's where I'm hoping everyone on this this call can help, to to help with thinking about the architecture and be able to assign themselves to different task teams to actually get some work done. So Peter, unless you have anything else to add, maybe we should turn to Ken so we can get an overview of what NCATS and Palantir are considering as their architecture.
No, that was great. Just one brief thing is I think this overlaps a little bit with the machine learning platform that we're starting to set up with Heidi and a bunch of people from CD2H. And one thing that would be critical to hear from a larger part of the community is what types of analytics you're going to run and what you need. So if you do have opinions on that, please send them to us so that we can try to take that into account.
And I think just from a program management standpoint, you know, we have both NCATS program management staff and CD2H program management staff, and some of them are quite technical. As we get launched, there'll be some improved processes for tracking requirements and community input and community evaluation and these sorts of things. So just know that you all have that support there for you.
Ken, are you on the call?
I am, Justin.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Well, you all have said most of the things I'm going to say, so I'll try to be quick. I think maybe for the folks on the call, I might be able to give a little bit of background, and I may ask the Palantir team to chime in when I say something incorrect. So to start out with is that, like Peter said, this is a continuation actually of an ongoing activity with machine learning, where NCATS and NIH in general felt that the machine learning really had, I don't think I'm saying anything that people don't agree with on the phone, is that it seems a little bit of a wild west for algorithm development with machine learning, where there's lack of transparency, there's lack of reproducibility, the black box issues. And so really this kind of just accelerates that issue of how do we ensure good quality science, it's reproducible and attributable to, and generalizable and distributable, so that we can trust it. Now the COVID is obviously put a rocket on our back to make going forward. So one of the things that I'm hoping that as we do this is those things in the back of people's mind, because that's an incredible, I think it's really a place that the CTSA can help uniquely for distributing those type of things to the community. A little bit of background. So this project actually is also very much part of CD2H in another sense, in that we've been working for a couple of years on bringing in common data models and actually moving them to FHIR. And so I imagine that we will continue, well, I don't imagine, we are continuing to move these common data models into a FHIR repository in parallel to this process. And we have been working with the FDA and ONC and CC on these projects, and in LM, any other FDA, I think if they have any more acronyms I can come up with. And so in the background, I just let you guys know that's, this is really continuation of a lot of that work, including the data harmonization piece that Chris shoots in working with, and something we call code map services, which we'll probably talk about another day. This project is obviously been accelerated because of the COVID, and I think that this is really the CTSA in general. This is has a unique opportunity to help with this. And when the COVID crisis happened, I went to Chris Austin, my boss, the head of the NCATS IC, and I said, this really fits in quite well with what we've been planning for a long time and how these all pieces get together. And Joni Rudder said, oh, and Chris said, oh, this is a really good idea. This could really help the community. And so the way the funding works at NIH is it's, you propose projects and you come up with funding. So anyway, this project was proposed, and it just kind of took off like wildfire, that it went all the way up. Actually, we had a conversation with some folks in the White House about this project. And that's kind of what's happened now. And that's really exciting. It's both good and bad. It's exciting that a lot of people are interested in this. It's bad that now we are under a microscope, and then there's also all the crazy politics of getting everybody to work together. So, and that makes it hard. But Chris Austin has committed to this project, whether the NIH gets enjoins this or not. Having said that, today, I think it was 10 o'clock this morning, I have so many meetings like we all do, Nabil and Andrew and a woman named Julie Bush and other folks from Palantir actually were the main presentation about this project to the entire, all the IC directors across the NIH, and that included Susan Gregoric and Patty Brennan and Joni, who were kind of leading this effort. And so, you know, that's kind of where we are, and I think that's going to happen in parallel. But if we take, you know, what we're doing here and look at what are some unique things that we can offer here, which is things that only a centralized data set can offer, and I think machine learning is actually a great example. But when we have these large cohorts, there's also, we found that, and I think that probably George knows this and help us out an enormous amount, is do the scientists know how to take advantage of it? Do they know how to take advantage of the tools that exist? And I think a lot of times we're asking these really smart researchers to use these tools, and they don't really know how to do them because they may be an expert on muscles or on lungs. They're not necessarily an expert on data mining and what the heck is machine learning. You know, so I think part of this group's challenge is, you know, there's the educational piece but there's also facilitating the science that can be done across the NIH and showing, and by the way, FDA, so they can share and take advantage of things like this. And so I would be remiss in not mentioning that on the N3C, this Palantir platform, which you all are we are going to have a demo, but Nabil and Andrew and Matt are all incredibly know this platform back and forth, been working with NCATS for a long time, can answer questions even on this phone call. One other thing that to talk a little bit about Palantir is that, you know, in this crisis, getting a FedRAMP BISMA compliant repository is actually an enormously hard thing to do. And Andrew or Nabil, I think it took you about 1.5 to 2 years to get that. And Sam says it was a 1,500-page document that had to go through. So even the ability to do this within the federal government is really a painful process. And so given the crisis, we wanted to make sure that we could get going quickly. And I want to make sure that I echo what Justin and Melissa said, is that Palantir is not just a tool, it's an ecosystem. And they have Juniper notebooks, and they have SAS, and they have R, and they have Oracle, and they have, you know, bring your own tool, develop your own tool. George's team at OMOP has amazing tools. We could bring those tools into the system. It's a little bit, we can kind of do what we want, and we have the support from NCATS to make this happen. So we need to facilitate science in any way we can, take advantage of the security, the scalability, the ETL ability, if that's a word, the ability to segregate different data sets, different security options, access options, but bring that science really is what I think this group should be focusing on, and best practices. So when we create these things, the people need to know what they can do with them. So I think that that's where I would come off on this. Nabil or Andrew, or any, from your point of view, any, you know, did I say something wrong or right?
No, Ken, that was perfect. Yeah, basically, I think we have a demo that Usman is arranging Monday at 5 o'clock. So what we'll do during that demo is we'll do a live demo of the NIH instance of Palantir, and kind of it'll be a live interactive one, so you guys can kind of ask questions, and we'll also talk through a little bit about the architecture. We know that kind of from the outside, it seems like this mysterious black box, so we're pretty keen to just like demystify it for everyone on this call and really just like show how it works. There are also APIs, and it's a pretty open platform, which I think not most people are aware of. So we also want to chat about how this can integrate with people's existing analytics tooling. I think that's it from me.
So I have just a quick question on that front. So I think it'd be very productive. Hopefully many on this call can join the demo on Monday. Is there any, as I've tried to go on the web and find documentation or information, it's been a little difficult. Are there resources that you can point us to now so that we can better inform ourselves that when we show up for the demo, we can have a well-formulated set of questions that I think would really speed along the conversation? So is that something you can provide and disseminate maybe today to this group?
Yeah, we can do that, Justin, for sure.
Great, thank you. And then a follow-up to the group, I think, if everyone who had then access to those resources, we can use this document that we're using for note-taking. I think that it'd be good to capture all the questions that we may have, so that we can organize ourselves and make sure that we can communicate effectively with Palantir about both our questions and our kind of desired architecture for what we would like to provide.
One thing I should add, also I should have mentioned, is that the Palantir, one of the things that this is kind of a side show or a side goal, is the NIH, as you all probably know, is divided up into these 27 stovepipes. And this platform is actually shared by both NCATS and NCI, but we're trying to also show the NIH that we actually could work together and share resources and not keep reproducing at every different IC. And so I think that that's also one of the, one of our internal goals, is to show that there's economies of scale, and that cloud-based work actually offers an amazing opportunity to change the way we think about doing research, even the whole process of it. So just kind of some background stuff we're working on.
Great, thanks, Ken. So what's next on the agenda, Anita, or Andrea? Is this open discussion now?
Yes, so let me bring it back up, sorry. Can you see my screen? Yes. So, okay, so we wanted to talk next about coordinating the community requirements around questions around ML and AI.
Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen again, although I think it's helpful to go back to our, can I share with the others? Can I, yes, there we go. Okay, so so we have these two components of analytical tools, and then we have the separate area for modeling and predictive analytics. And I see, Jason, you've already kind of provided some color to to how we can conceptualize a modeling environment, and how we would want to do as much as we can to capture the output, or to influence the behaviors that people might have in this environment. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of think about that and explore different frameworks. Maybe I'll just kind of start with my own idea that there's kind of two levels of operating here. One is trying to get out of people's way, just provide the tools and the mechanisms for people to access the data, query it, do their analysis, and do good science. And that's kind of enough. And that could be in the form of access directly to the database, and ability to spin up Jupyter notebooks, or other types of notebooks, and just to be as productive as possible, which I think we do want to enable. But there's also a question of, do we also want an additional layer to that, that we might also enable particular communities who around particular questions and help facilitate more coordinated activities. If there's a kind of common set of questions and goals, we can even orient ourselves around different benchmarking activities if we want to help facilitate the generation of predictive models around hospitalization, for example. Is that an area in which we would form a task team or a special interest group and try to coordinate activities from a more kind of top-down approach? And maybe it's not an either or. In terms, we can kind of go down both roads, but it's a question of, do we have the interest, the scalability, and the desire to kind of coordinate those activities, or do we think that that could be a distraction, and really we should just focus our effort on providing access to the data and tools that people will need. So I think that's one area we want to consider if anyone has any ideas or thoughts around that.
Well, you said it earlier, Justin. You basically want to get out of the investigator's way. So I think, we could look at this in two ways, as you said. But I would favor the analytics group enabling and supporting as broad a palette of analytics environments as practical. And there are human subjects issues associated with this, but and not attempting to impose any process or untoward restrictions in that space.
And Chris, maybe to kind of continue on that, in terms of data access and restrictions around that, because we had previously discussed that there could be row level access versus kind of model access. So so it's not that everyone who has access can do row level queries, but maybe there's an additional layer for the community that we're providing statistical models that people can reparameterize or apply to the data, but that doesn't require them to have IRB approval and access to row level data. So that's obviously a heavier lift to kind of put those tools in place. But I know the OMOP community has those types of tools, and maybe there's others that we would want to support.
Chris, I don't think we were talking about restricting the types of analysis, but there's sort of a sweet spot where everybody will need to do the same type of basically debugging of their code or benchmarking. And by having the right amount of that, we would actually accelerate, many people's work. If we have too much, or if it's too confusing, then yes, it's a bad thing. And so that's one of the things we need to try to figure out, is what's the happy balance.
And if I could go back to Justin's question, because we're literally drafting the IRB this weekend, and it would be germane to know whether this is possible. Maybe this is a Palantir question. The model that was suggested was that investigators, by default, be able to use tools to analyze the data without actually seeing the row level data. That would require only a data access committee permission to access. Because this is a limited data set and therefore is at risk of being re-identified. If investigators wanted to actually see the row level data and have access to it on a row by row level directly, they would require an independent IRB to access that. The question for Palantir is, if we use standard data science tools like Python, R, or Jupyter, which often allow the viewing of data rows by their nature, is it possible to implement them so that you could run code across data sets, do data transformations and generate parameters, but not be able to view the row level data in tools like R and Python?
Hi, Chris. Yeah, this is Nabil. Good question. So I think a lot of the Monday demo will go some way to addressing that. But to answer the question, basically there's a technical piece and then there's a policy piece, right? So from a technical point of view, it's absolutely possible to form essentially an aggregated data set, which researchers would have access to without having to go through an IRB. And they would not have access to the data sets that were used to derive that. So that's perfectly possible. Following on from that aggregated data set, and this is where the kind of policy question comes in, they could use tooling in the platform, including Python and R, et cetera, to analyze that. One thing that I'm not super clear on from the NIH policy side is whether NIH is going to allow some kind of limited export or API access to the data. So I think that piece is more of an NIH question. We can obviously enable that, but that's the bit that I'm less clear on.
Yeah, my understanding, and Ken can correct me, but by policy, we've considered that there would be no downloading or API access to the data at all. All analysis would have to occur on the platform.
That's right. Unless the only exception, Chris, is that if the synthetic set that Philip's working on is does come to fruition, and I'm excited that I think it will, we could allow that one to be downloaded, but not the limited data set in any way at all. And that's why, using Chris's term, we're really calling this a data enclave. It's bring your tools to the data, not the data to the tools in this case.
Yeah, and this is definitely a work stream that needs to be very clear about how this would operate, especially in conjunction with the tools. You know, for example, access to Jupyter Notebook. You know, that there's obviously risks. There has to be ways in which you can monitor and audit data access and at least limit data leakage out of the system. It's not perfect, obviously. People can take screenshots, etc. But you know, we'll have to just kind of, I think, discuss how do we align the data security and access that Chris, you are setting up versus what the tools can allow. So I mean, I think these are maybe topics that we'll want to discuss after we get the Palantir demo and can take a deeper dive there.
So this is Heidi. I have a question. Just, you guys were using the term synthetic data earlier. What do you mean by synthetic data? Is it just de-identified data, or is it simulated data from the real data?
The latter. Yeah, so this, I don't have the details on Philip's plan, but it's my understanding they're using a product called MD Clone that will be applied to this data to simulate similar synthetic data from the real data.
Yeah, sampling from distribution strategies, basically.
Okay. Not a lot of input from others, so I assume that everyone is okay with the structure here. And I think that the exercise that we'll want to do, of course, is be able to map individuals that are here who can contribute time and attention and to these different task teams. And I think the best way to do that is to we'll want to be able to distribute a spreadsheet where individuals can assign themselves and describe perhaps some of their background and skill sets that they might be able to apply to these different areas. I do think that this one area for database management, compute resources, and analytical tools perhaps is overloaded. I think we'll probably want to break out the analytical tools as a separate component, because I think there's opportunity for a really robust discussion around what tools are out there. We're very interested in what the Odyssey community has to provide. There's Leaf, for example, as a cohort builder, and I think there's many others that we kind of want to think about that we provide in this environment. Because we shouldn't expect that everyone necessarily coming to this environment is an expert in ML or statistical analysis. And I think the more we can quickly onboard individuals who have interesting research questions and enable them and to be productive the better. So I think that's where we want to capture many of the tools that I think will help enable that.
So just doing a quick check on time. Do we want to talk about if you guys need any subgroups and also how frequently you should meet?
Well, we're describing the subgroups here. I'm not sure we're poised to immediately launch all of them. I think what we really need to do is capture this group and their interest in being able to participate in these groups, and then from there we'll make decisions about whether we're going to have breakout calls. This call itself is a biweekly, or we have not come to an agreement there?
I think we should come to an agreement. I think because of how fast-paced this is moving, that we probably should meet bi-weekly, at least for the next couple of weeks, and you can see from there how often based on your breakout groups.
Yeah, I would, until we actually form breakout groups, I would propose that we have a weekly call here until we can better formulate our actual subtask teams.
Okay.
A few questions on the chat. There was a question about all of us. Josh Jennings on most of our calls across the NIH, and Joni used to be one of the leads at all of us, so they're very much involved. And I agree. We want to be as inclusive as possible. There was a question I wasn't sure about geospatial. Could somebody before I ask that, the limited data set does include geospatial data on the patients. So, but what was the question on that one specifically?
Oh, so maybe I can briefly summarize it. Typically, yeah, we have coordinates on individuals that have been reported, and it's useful to analyze the spread or the prevalence or various epidemiology metrics in a geographical context. So whether that's county by county or even more granular level, whether it's over time or just a snapshot. And there are various tools that allow the storage of data and also analysis of data in this more geographical context. There are GeoTIFFs or GeoJSON and corresponding kind of geospatial models that are statistical to allow you to interpolate and infer what are hotspots of the outbreak, where it's likely to, where could you have a hotspot given certain covariates, like for example, social network structure in certain areas or population density.
So let me interrupt, because yeah, I think we can easily spend many hours describing all the different use cases for this data, this analytics environment. We already heard that we need input from the EPI community, not just the ML community, who may think about this differently. So there's no lack, I think, of different ways of thinking how this information can be leveraged. But I'm not sure we want to take this meeting to go down to all the different sub analytic areas.
So just an administrative question in the last few minutes. So this is partly why we were wondering, how can we assist? You know, obviously the value of the N3C is being timely. How fast can we actually launch this thing and get people working on the data? So it seems to me like breaking up into some sub-task teams here actually does make sense. What's the best way for us to help you realize those goals? I don't want to, because otherwise you end up with everybody on every call, and that's not really useful either. So how can we best get some of these components moving along?
So I think that there's at least a few of us that are interested in the epidemiological modeling use case. That seems to tie into like part of that modeling and predictive analytics. That I don't want to say that it's not related to general machine learning, but it definitely doesn't. You definitely have to have fewer assumptions with the modeling efforts. Like you really cannot take normality in the the traditional context of machine learning. Yeah, people in cities just don't build that way. So there are certain things that I think would be relevant as like a subset of use case or grouping.
Can
So
you help?
just, yeah.
Yeah, let's just write these things down so we can help you guys organize. I mean, this is obviously like we're building the plane as we're flying it, but
where should this be written down?
So there's this spreadsheet here, and then there's also the notes document that we have. So either place, we'll make sure it happens. And both of these should be in the folder that you have access to. Hopefully everybody has access. I made a bit.ly for the parent folder so you can get to everything.
Yeah, I think would really be helpful if this team over the next, because we're going to have a call in a week from today, if they could put, use this as a straw man, and feel free to poke at it in terms of areas that we think need to have focused task teams that we can then, in a week from today, be able to designate leaders and really kind of kick those off. So if you can use the notes the note document that Melissa circulated, that's, I think, the right place to be able to kind of provide input that we all need at this point.
And then,
and Ken, you'll be circulating an invite to the Palantir demo to everyone on this list.
Yeah, that's what I was thank you, Justin. That was just what I was going to ask. We're doing a demo at 5 o'clock on Monday.
Yeah, if you're using the Monday time, what we can do is get this group here and the group that's there and send out an email to both groups.
Okay, thank you, Anita. And I'm asking Palantir, if folks can't make it, the Palantir folks have been incredibly helpful, and I'm sure we could figure out another time to do another demo. So, but we'll do that demo Monday afternoon or early evening.
So Anita, it sounds like the right follow-up is for us to send out an email to this group with that information and also the ask for this group with the link to the notes so that people can provide the feedback we're looking for. Okay.
The other thing is, and not immediately part of this, but maybe this is kind of part of the EPI questions is, again, one of the questions we should ask Palantir on Monday is, we can bring data, other data to this system. If there's, and they can help us, there are ways, help us combine that. That's their secret sauce. Certainly Joel is working on with, or just about to work with Joel with Stephen Hewitt this afternoon. I think you guys have a meeting this afternoon at 5 if you finally come up. So, we're trying to bring in that pathology data and some other imaging data. So, in the back of your minds, what do we need and how can we connect it would be also a way something to be thinking about to make this richer.
Great. So we'll add that.
One last, Nabil, you guys also have gotten HIPAA for imaging and genomics, right? Have gone through.
Yeah, exactly. So we follow HIPAA protocols. My understanding of the data use agreement is that NIH is kind of operating under a public health exemption here. But basically, yes, we can support the imaging data and the genomics data as well.
Yeah. So keep that in the back of your minds.
Great. So we're at the hour. I really appreciate the great turnout and the great enthusiasm we have. So we'll be followed with an email for next steps and look forward to seeing everyone on the Palantir demo and also our meeting next week.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Bye,
Thanks.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.